realizing how dangerous that just was and continues to be. So he's gonna make a guest appearance on the windowsill. Just know that it's still there and it's still providing the ambience that we need. It is halfway through the year, which means that it is the mid-year freak out book tag time. Is it already more than halfway through the year? Yes, we are fashionably late here. Not even fashionably, we're just late on this channel. Time is an illusion, time has no meaning. The mid-year freak out book tag, I will leave the original creator in the description box down below. It has been around for many years and it is a way for me to summarize all the books that I have read thus far. As of today, which is the 8th of July, we have read 46 books, which is roughly on track. No, it's well ahead of schedule for what I was planning for the year. My goal was 60, so we're like more than halfway there. Fitting we're more than halfway through the year. Without further ado, welcome to my very unscripted, very chaotic mid-year freak out book tag. Also, bless everyone that has the list of prompts in the description box. You guys are the real heroes here. Question number 1 is the best book that you have read so far. I have several. I couldn't narrow it down. I also will be repeating books. It is what it is. Lonely Castle in the Mirror by Mizuki Tsujimura. I read this as a part of a video that I did reading Alison Paige's favorite books, and it has immediately become one of my favorite books. So this is a gripping and beautiful, heartwarming, cozy tale that tells the story of 6 children and the relationships that they develop when they are set a task to find a magical key in a magical castle that is inside of mirrors within a year. I found that it really transported me back to the time where I was also a child and going through these issues. I just loved how much we had such complete character profiles for every single one of the children and all of the side characters as well. If you haven't read it, you need to, and just truck through the first like third of the book and then you'll get there. You'll get there. It'll all come together in the end. I also really loved Bloom by Kevin Panetta. This is another gay romance graphic novel. Similar vibes to Heartstopper, so if you enjoyed Heartstopper, you will also love Bloom. I personally liked Bloom a bit more than Heartstopper just because I read it first, and even though that it's only 1 volume so far and it's super short, it has so much packed into its beautifully illustrated pages. We follow our 2 main characters, Ari and Hector, as they are working in a bakery over the summer, I believe. Ari has just finished high school and university and he's kind of figuring out what he needs to do with his life, and Hector is just moved to town and is looking for a summer job at Ari's family's bakery. It was filled with love. It was filled with romance. It was filled with so many adorable panels and scenes, and I just can't get over how much I love this graphic novel. It was heart-wrenching, it was beautiful, and this is not the first time that this book will make an appearance in this video. The next question is the best sequel that you've read so far. Don't come for me, please. But my best sequel that I have read this year was House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J Maas. I'm a Sarah J Maas stan, and I have to accept that, and I have to sit with that, and I have to live with that. I think her writing is crack, and I can't stop reading it. And until the day comes that I can stop reading her crack, she will continue to be included in the favorites videos. This is the sequel to the Crescent City series. The first one was just Crescent City, and then everyone got really confused because the second one was also Crescent City, but then we didn't realize that we needed to use the houses as the main titles of the books instead of Crescent City. To avoid spoilers, urban fantasy setting, fae, other magical beings, no spice, question mark, chosen family, interesting characters and relationships. But that is not my only favourite sequel that I've read. My other favourite sequel is actually Heartstopper Volume 3 by Alice Oseman. I did a reread of the series. I only read the first one previously, but then I finally read the rest of them, and number 3 was hands down, by far, my favourite. This was the best one. I'm like really hoping that season 2 of the TV show starts here, because I think that the season 1 was books 1 and 2, so like we'll see how we go. But Heartstopper, also not the first time that this will come up in this video. Are we sensing a theme? Are we sensing a theme? Question number 3 is a new release that you haven't read yet that you want to. Is it still technically classed as a new release if it was released in January? It is The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axie O, and I will be reading this month as a part of the Summer Splash readathon. It will be fulfilling one of the prompts. This is a supposedly like spirited away vibe fantasy book following our main character Mina. She lives in a village where they have to sacrifice someone to a sea god every year, and this year her brother's fiance gets sacrificed and the brother jumps in to save the fiance, and then she jumps in to save the brother. The back of the book says that The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea is a magical feminist retelling of a classic Korean legend, perfect for fans of Uprooted and Miyazaki's Spirited Away. I'm in. Next, the most anticipated book to still be released in 2022. I have two for this one. Who Is She? Having anticipated releases. We have These Twisted Bonds by Lexi Ryan. It's the sequel to These Hollow Vows. I read that earlier this year and thoroughly enjoyed it. Didn't realize that I could like romance fantasies again until this year because I hadn't read them, or at least a new one, in such a long time. So that is one that I'm excited for. Again, set in a fairy world. The main character's sister gets sold to the Unseelie King and she has to go and get her back, and that's just like a whole thing. There's a love triangle. It was filled with all of the fantastic tropes that you want in a fantasy romance. The second is The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber. This is the second book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart series, which is the spin-off sequel series to the Caraval series by Stephanie Garber. Once Upon a Broken Heart follows one of the side characters actually from Caraval. He is the Prince of Hearts, so he's a fate. And we have another main character who has been sent by the previous main characters of Caraval. So it's just like another whole like fantasy tropey, romancy book, but without fairies. Without fairies this time. There's no fae in this series, which is pleasant and surprising. The next question is biggest disappointment. Oh boy. I've had a few books this year that have just haven't hit the mark for me, but I think the biggest disappointment was Zodiac Academy. It just wasn't what I expected. See, here's me walking in like expecting to have found like a new like Sarah J Maas series. Like everyone's comparing it. They all say it's amazing. It's filled with like the right level of spice. All of the boys are really hot. All of the girls are really hot. Like I was ready. I was ready for an awesome fantasy romance fun time. And I got a bully romance that I just not for me. I'm intrigued by the series, I'm intrigued by where it's going, but it's just not. Bully romances are not for me, I don't think. We might read number 2, see if we get emotionally attached to the characters, but thus far, one book down, no attachment, none whatsoever. Also, one of the main characters' name is Tori Vega, and I can't unsee Victorious. Okay, next is the biggest surprise thus far this year. Mine was actually an audiobook that I listened to, and it was Educated by Tara Westover. It's a surprise because I don't normally listen to or read non-fiction books or memoirs. However, I listened to Educated and I found that I was wanting to listen to it as if I was reading a fantasy or listening to a fantasy story, which was wild. Tara Westover is an author. She also has a PhD. I can't remember exactly what for, but Educated tells the story of her upbringing. Basically, her dad potentially has some form of mental illness, and they are a like doomsday prepper family, so trying to make everything self-sufficient, but then also addresses all of the abuse that she experienced at the hands of her family under the guise and pretense of their religion and beliefs about the world and the government. It was very interesting. It was very, very interesting. I wouldn't say that I had like a good time listening to it, but it definitely was interesting and it kept me so engrossed the whole time. Next is a new favorite author, and for this I'm actually going to say Ocean Vuong. I read, where are we? On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous earlier this year, and the book itself like wasn't my favorite. However, Ocean Vuong's writing, immaculate. The most poetic and beautiful and concise writing that I think I have ever read. I think he's the best author that I have ever read. In this 240-page book, there was just so much, and it was so eloquently and beautifully told. There was no filler words, there was no filler sentences, there was no filler paragraphs. Every word, every sentence, every placement choice had a purpose and a reason to be there. It was amazing. So I will be from now picking up Ocean Vuong's other stuff, because despite the fact that this story like wasn't my favorite story to read, I just cannot get over how wonderful his writing is. And also the fact that this is his debut. Wild. The next question is new fictional crush. I would die for Nick Nelson. Next is a book that made you cry, and I said it, I called it, but Lonely Castle in the Mirror made me sob. I was a blubbering mess. I filmed it, like me reading the end of this book, and I legitimately had to cut down about 20 to 30 minutes worth of footage of me crying. I think that there's even like tear stains on the pages in here somewhere. This. But on the flip side, it is a book that made you happy, and for this, and I said it, I knew it, but it's Bloom by Kevin Panetta. The happy feelings, like all of the serotonin flowed from my head to my toes throughout this entire book. So many happy feelings. And there's like a sourdough recipe at the back of it, and there is like a playlist in the back of it, like this. Beautiful. beautiful, heartwarming, happy feelings. Next is the most beautiful book that you have bought in 2022. Hands down, it has to be The Little Prince. Like, I just, particularly this edition of it, like not even just any of the Little Princes, but like particularly this one. This prompted me to just redo my entire Instagram feed. And it's got a quote on the back. It says, "The most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or touched, they are felt with the heart." Oh, this one's a loaded question. What do you want to read before 2022 ends? Look, I don't know if you can see, but like this whole shelf and this whole shelf, and then the entire TBR cart that I have in the lounge room are all books that I haven't read yet, that I want to read. Not to mention my Summer Splash TBR, not to mention some of the required books like that I need to reread within the rest of the shelf to then finish books that are up here. There's too many to name. There's too many. But if we were to rapid fire just a few, The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave, which is a thriller, I believe. Furyborn by Claire Legrand, which is a, again, fantasy romance. Hidden Valley Road, which I've started and then had to stop because I started listening to Educated, and that was on a time limit and they were too similar. It's a non-fiction that tells the story of a family of 12 children, 6 of which have been diagnosed with schizophrenia. And it's like all of the medical advances that came of studying this one American family. And A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. This will be its own thing in and of itself. And the last question is some of your favorite community members, which I will also rapid fire because there are so many people that I have been loving and talking to and watching recently. So we have, obviously, starting at the top, Ali from Alice in Pages, Kirsty from Kirsty, Isabella from Throne of Pages, Lisa from With Love Lisa, Janelle from Janelle Reads, Mari from Mari Reads, and Leonie from The Book Leo. Hello from Editing Michaela, who didn't forget to mention Sally, but in my brain, because I'd mentioned her earlier in the video, I didn't mention her in this section, but also Sally. She is also amazing. Please also go check out Sally. You may now return to your regularly scheduled video. So they're just like a few people that I have been loving. Go check them out. They're pretty cool. But we've been filming for half an hour and that is the end of my mid-year freak out book tag. Thanks for coming along, fam. It has been a wild start to 2022, so I'm hoping that the second half of the year just kind of chills out a bit. That'd be nice. But anyway, that is all that I have as a part of this video to talk to you about. If you're not subscribed, please consider doing that. That would be amazing. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!